Okay, so hello to everyone who tuned in today to today's interview, which we will have with Susan. Very happy to have you here, Susan. But I also want to say hello to you as the listener who tunes in to this interview, because when you found this channel and these interviews, I suppose you are looking for answers. Maybe you yourself had an awakening experience and now you're looking for answers, or people who had a similar experience, so that your own experience can be kind of validated. So I just want to tell you, I've been there. Susan's been there for sure. So we can just tell you out of our own experience, that's one of the best ways to do that, because it helped me a lot to be just reassured by other people that they had a similar experience and that I'm not crazy and that I should really let all the experience happen without fear. And also, I think it's important that we understand that we are really in this together. So when listening to another person's story, it can really help you to make sense of your own, because everybody has a very unique experience. And also, this also is important for me to say, we are not here to tell you what is the truth. We have no clue. We're just telling our experiences and what it told us about how we maybe can understand the world, and then you make sense out of it on your own. So so let's dive into today's interview with Susan.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. And let's start with you just telling us where you come from and what you're doing right now. How is your life right now, actually?
So right now I'm in the UK, and I've been fully going through this process, I would say, since the career started, with the career, the automatic movement, the big energy movement, for about the last 5 years, I would say. I'm in the hair and beauty industry. I've been a bodywork practitioner for over 30 years. I've since got into more trauma release bodywork and other healing modalities, actually, because I was kind of thrown onto this path, actually kicking and screaming. So there's a really amazing story, which I'll tell you later on, of how I ended up doing this type of work.
Yeah, wonderful. Exactly. So let's start at the beginning. So how was your life before what you would call the awakening, or that very important incident? How was it before?
Well, I was in a 20-year marriage. I mean, there's a lot that happened prior to that marriage, but I was in this 20-year marriage, which it had its ups and downs. It wasn't great, but you stick with it because of your conditioning. We had a daughter. She's now 21, actually also going through Kundalini awakening.
Oh, yeah.
So, but the last year I was actually in that marriage, it was so awful, if I'm honest, that I used to spend about 2 or 3 hours a day meditating, because it was a really good escape from really the misery that I was living in. But of course, you know what happens when we meditate so much, expansion happens. I was actually on a healers forum one day, and somebody made a comment. We were talking about crystals, and this guy said you can tell a lot about a person by the crystals they use. And I was like, fair enough. I just ignored it. And then later on, he private messaged me, and said, look, what you need right now is a ruby. You're under attack. And I was like, actually, I am. So he said, well, look, will you do me a favor, go and get yourself a ruby pendant and have a raw ruby to have in your pocket, and just, give me feedback in a month's time or so and tell me what happened. Of course, I did that, but then I didn't message him in a month. I just left it. And then he messaged me. But the weird thing was that every time I spoke to this guy, I could feel this energy. I was like, what is this? He was in Greece, and he wasn't interested in me, from a relationship point of view. He was already with somebody, but I could feel this huge energy. And then one day he said to me, look, if I send you a track, will you go in a dark room and just put the headphones on? We'll synchronize. You play, I'll play. I went, all right then. So he'd made these amazing tracks, and we pressed play at the same time. Oh my God. And it was the first time, I don't know anyone who's felt those whooshes of like fizzy energy that come right through your body. I was getting these whooshes all the way through. And I was like, oh my God, what was that? And it was, of course, because I'd connected with him. He was an awakened guy, and obviously he was just, our energies had like docked, if you like. And I was feeling all this energy, and as time went on, it got bigger and bigger and bigger, until I was like, I would be at work and I would be orgasmic, and I'd be like trying to keep my composure. I'd be doing something like an electrolysis treatment where you've got to be very concentrating, looking through a glass, and you're like this, and I'd be like, oh my God, what is this? And at the same time, I was getting like, when I was like talking to him, I'd be getting remote viewing. I could see what he was looking at, and all these phenomena was happening, and I was like, what is this? And I had no idea. And eventually we met, and he came over, and I just said to him, look, I know you're the real deal, right? And I know you're a healer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line you up some clients to do some of your work, whatever you do, because it's amazing. I can feel it. So he came over, and the long story short, we ended up working together, and he started to teach me some of this tantric body work he was using in channeling, using energy. And I was going, how do you do that? And I was like, he said, Suzanne, you were born to do this. And I was like, oh, you're the healer, you go and do it. So after about a year, he left, and I had started to do some body work, his type of body work. And he got into a relationship, went off to live in Vienna, and I was left with all these clients who were like needing more. But in my body, I can feel where people are blocked. I can feel everything. So I'd be working on these clients, and I could feel that they were blocked either in their, in their throat chakra, their heart chakra, their solar plexus, or, their sacral chakra. But I didn't know exact techniques how to move it. So I went looking, and I found Tantric Journey in London, and he teaches a lot of the Taoist techniques, and mixed with a blend of Tantra and breath work and everything. It's really powerful. So I trained with him. 40 case studies later, like we're now like nearly 4 years on, and I now assist him with teaching, get very involved with the students, and my whole life is different. And now this energy has like evolved and transformed, and I noticed over time that I'd be going through the routine, if you like, and there's a part where we move energy, and I noticed my hands wanted to do something different, and I was like, I'd be trying to move the energy, but then my hands would like want to do something. I was like, okay. So eventually I just surrendered into it. And then huge like expansive energy releases, trauma release, everything like kicking off big time, and also helping people to move past their own fear as energy and fear rises, because as if you activate Kundalini, fear rises, and it's things that are coming to the surface to be cleared. And this whole sort of healing path evolved. It just kind of happened.
So actually, but so you would say, and that I found very interesting, because we chatted a little bit before we started the interview. So what was happening for you is that you were kind of guided into it, and it was a like, not that shock trauma, oh my God, now the Kundalini is up. You were just, somebody helped you in awakening what was already kind of dormant within you because of very early ages. So tell me about your childhood.
Okay, so growing up, sorry, my daughter's here. Could you give us
Yeah.
a little bit, just a little bit of privacy, please? Thank you. So growing up, I came from a very volatile household, and there was a lot of violence. I'm not going to lie, there was a lot of violence in our household. So I was always on this alert state of, you never knew which version of my dad was coming home. Was it going to be a normal family tonight, or is it going to, is it going to explode into something different? You just never knew. So you're always living on this heightened state of alertness, because you don't know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen to you. You know what's going to happen to your mom, and you're always living in this fear state. And that's obviously not a healthy way to live. And as a child, I was full of big welts and rashes, and lots of these. I'd swell up sometimes. Different food intolerances that would come and go. So my mum could never pinpoint exactly what it was. So she just used to cook from fresh. I was like massively like hyperactive. So I'd be like, my mum said, like, you literally be like climbing the walls. You had so much energy. So yeah, it wasn't great. And I left home at the age of 15. So, always living in survival, really.
Uh-huh. Okay. And but you also felt from very early age that you're kind of different, how
Yes.
how you feel your own energy and the
Yeah.
of your surroundings. And
Yeah.
maybe, of course, I mean, if you are always in that heightened state, something which is always in a already in an ability can yeah, be like a
I guess
trigger,
you're stimulating other parts of your
right?
brain, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but even like I mean, I've got memories from when I was a tiny baby, and my mum's like, Suzanne, you were 3 weeks old, and I'm like, really? Memories from that time. And I can remember being in a pram and being a little baby, and my mum talking on the high street to someone, and me in my head trying to get the words out. And I remember this so vividly, and I'm trying to go, mom, but mum is coming out because I'm a baby and I can't speak, because I want to just stop talking already so I can go home. you know but
wow.
around age 4, I remember saying to my mum, no one's like me. And I could feel my energy. I could feel my energy, and I could feel it was different. And I could feel that other children weren't the same.
Mm-hmm.
I had that awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't till I got to age 11 when it was actually my best friend's grandma had died. And actually there'd been a lot of like supernatural activity going on in the house, and we were scared. And I remember we
Like
held each other's
when you
hands.
say supernatural things going on, what do you mean by that?
Well,
Kiki?
her grandma was called Mrs. Mackey, and I remember the phone ringing, and it was all crackly, and then it was just going, Mrs. Mackey, Mrs. Mackey, and it wasn't Mrs. Mackey's phone number. So what the hell? In
Uh,
the stuff moving in the house, we were scared. We were home alone, and I remember we held each other's hand, and we were going, she's not here, she's not here, she's not here. And I remember this massive whoosh of energy coming, took our breaths away, and it's exactly the same as the Kundalini energy I feel now, exactly the same. And that night, I'd stayed around a house, and we'd slept in the lounge, and I can see it so clearly. And I'd had like I can't call it. It was like it was a lucid dream. It wasn't sleep paralysis. It was a lucid dream. And I'd woken up, and I saw this massive snake coming towards us because we were sleeping on the floor. And I'm trying to say her name, and it won't come out. And I jumped up onto the sofa, and I seen this massive snake go into the bed. And since found out that when you go into this Kundalini thing, that it's really common to get this these dreams of snakes. And I didn't know what Kundalini was, but my
yeah.
sexual energy did wake up at that point very much.
Uh-huh.
um so yeah, that was strange, but then it kind of must have really gone back to sleep again after that, until later in life. But when I look back now, because you go back and you start joining the dots, and you go, oh,
Exactly, right? Yeah.
All these things that have happened through these illnesses that I've had. I was projectile vomiting from the age of 13 to 21 from my solar plexus for no reason. What was that about? You
Mm,
know,
yeah.
but I think it's suppressed emotions, suppressed, it's just the body trying to purge and
Mm,
get rid of, some of this energy that we've swallowed, that because energy is energy, right? If we swallow emotions and we push them down, that energy is not going anywhere, it's staying in the body. It's got to come out somewhere.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I find it always, what I like about doing these interviews is that you really feel that people who are in such a process or even are interested in such topics, they they there you feel a very much a connection, because when you're saying some things, it reminds me on experiences I had in my childhood, or when Mickey is talking about his ayahuasca experience, I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, because it all starts to join
Yeah,
together. You're like, we've got common.
we put it
There's a
together.
lot of common experiences and common probably
Yeah,
life paths as well.
and I really feel like we're helping each other, to make sense of.
100%. Yeah, trying to debunk it, or not debunk it, but trying to, I don't know, unravel it and just say, okay, maybe this is why this happened, or what, I don't know, maybe it was always meant to happen. I don't know,
Yeah,
it just happened.
yeah,
But
yeah.
one thing I do know is that, you know, I'd experienced a lot of people going through Kundalini awakening at the training school before my career started. So for me, when it happened, absolutely no fear, completely surrender, because
That's
I'd seen it, I knew what it was. I'd already been, the universe had kind of already shown me what it was. I knew what it was. So I was like, okay, just going to embrace this and get on with it.
mm, okay. Yeah, that's nice. For me, you see, there's also a correlation, which is interesting, because for me it was the opposite. I was doing, for maybe 1 or 2 years, I was doing nothing else than looking for truth. What is the truth? What is the
Oh, okay.
So when I started to do that, I was very much in conspiracy theories and
Yeah,
the,
done that too.
the occultism.
Yeah, yeah,
I was in the dark, you know.
yeah.
But then suddenly I realized, well, that when there's so much darkness, there has to be the same amount of light. And then I was looking
Yes.
into stuff like alchemy and the ancient school knowledge, stuff like that,
Yeah.
more the positive side of it and how to
Yes.
handle it. But you know what was so funny is I was doing nothing else than looking for truth and listening, searching all this ancient knowledge. I never came across the word Kundalini, and this is strange because
The same.
this
The
is the,
same.
this is the number one word. Everyone's talking just about Kundalini. It's like
Hmm.
you have to activate this energy. I never heard of it. I was
Me
looking,
neither.
and then it happened to me, and then I was searching for answers, and then I realized there is something I heard once, but I never looked into it. But then I realized this is it, and this is so strange how, whatever you want to call it, the universe or my own wisdom, just made a wheel around that so that I don't look it up too early. Because what I also see, a lot of people who are very heady into also Eastern philosophies, it's never going to happen to them because
No,
they
you're
have
right.
all the concepts. They are like, this is just happening to a Buddha. They never think, I mean, actually, I was what was I, 20, no, 30, I don't know. Either way, I was a mom in distress with two boys. I was swearing a lot, I was smoking, and I was drinking too much, and it happened. So please, everybody, it can happen to anybody.
Can happen to anyone. And I personally think that, you know, the people who go down the spiritual path, the monks and everything, I think all of their practice is about preparing the body. If it happens, you know, it might happen, it might never happen in their lifetime. And then for people like us, it happens. And then you're like, okay, now I need to backtrack and start making sure that my body is okay for this, and that it's not going to cause me damage, not harm as in it's harmful, but you know, it's that you know, you can actually help the body and, you know, smooth the path, really. So I was backtracking, going, oh my god, now I need, what do I need to do? And I've spent the last, you know, 5 years like trying to find ways to actually really, I feel into my body, feel where the tension, the contraction is. You know, and many of us, we're contracted through the hip flexors, the psoas muscle, and our fascias are so important through this process, because they act like messengers, like fiber optics, to move some of this stuff out the way. And if this is all contracted and tight, nothing's going to move. So when people start doing things like Jivamukti yoga, Ashtanga, all they're doing is contracting and tightening the body further. I did it.
Believe it.
I did it.
This is my teaching. You know, I'm a yoga teacher, and all I'm doing all the time, since I feel it in the energy, I sit with them in Dandasana. You know, the position, the one of the easiest one, where you just have your legs out and you sit with a straight spine, so like this.
Yeah.
Oh?
Yeah. Yes.
Tell them sit there, and now please, please try to relax your lower belly, your psoas region, and
yes,
and your lower back, and all that is what you have to do. And then also when they're, then I tell them, now we do the yoga poses, and every time you try to relax your lower belly, because everybody is telling you use the core, and but it's not true, because you have to really realize that you don't have to hold with your outer muscles. It's the inner muscles, well, actually the inner energy, which is going to hold you up no matter what. And you have learned to trust that you're being held by this energy, and also to move it and try to just lose tension in the psoas region, the lower belly and the lower back. And
yeah. So I mean, I go one step further with that. I run my own trauma release courses, so I, you know, and I teach them to actually really start working with releasing the hip flexors and all of those, you know, that fascia that's going to come from the front of your feet all the way up the front through the psoas muscle. It's going to form a sling around the back of your neck. You're going to end up hunched over like this. And we need to actually open that up and release it for this energy to actually move. Because, you know, when we think we're in danger, the first thing our body does, it sends energy down to our hip and our pelvis area, because, like, get ready to run. Well, we don't need to run because there's no lion in the background. You know, so it's you know, it's about working with those and starting to release them, the energy flow. Otherwise everything gets contracted and tight, you know.
yes, so maybe tell us about it, how you work with the people when you
I personally, I teach them some of the Taoist techniques. So we have the major pump, which is the heart. Okay, so, and we have about 50 other pumps around the body. But what happens is that we get energetic knots and tangles in the body. So the wave that comes from the heart will go, imagine this is like a big Wi-Fi router, and then we've got boosters around the body. And what happens is that these boosters end up turning off, or they're overworking, or they're underworking, and the blood is carrying chi energy around the body, and if the blood can't flow properly, neither can the chi energy. So we're going to go around the body and we start to open up all of these little pumping stations, these Wi-Fi routers that are sending the wave of signal around the body. But if the body's still contracted, then it's only going to last a short while. So we're actually damming that wave of energy and that blood, if you like, and it will surge into the organs or the muscles, and then it will, it will push out any energetic knots and tangles, calcification, all of that sort of thing. But at the same time, you've still got to release the body. So you see, I've seen people sort of come through the school, and especially the models that come in, for case studies, and I think, they've been coming for years, time and time again. Why are they, like, these people should just be like fully healed by now, all this treatment they're having, and it's because the body is still contracted, still tight. And things like restorative yoga, yin, anything that opens all of these up really helps. One thing that's been brilliant is yogabody.com, and there's a segment in there called the Science of Stretching. It's not expensive, and I believe you get lifetime access. It's fantastic, and he really works with fascias, really opening everything up, and for me it's been incredible.
Good. I will put the link down in the video below for people who are interested in that. Yeah,
that really helps. So just from my own personal journey, apart from all the Kundalini phenomenon about the way the energy moves, the way my hands move and release energy in my own body and all of that, well, not everybody has that. Some people have trauma and they're not in Kundalini awakening, but they need to release emotional blockages that things that they've held on to in their body that are affecting them and stopping them moving forward in life. They just hold you back because fear coming all the time. We have this buffer at the navel, when fear rises, we just push it back down again, because if we were in a fear state all the time, we couldn't function.
And I think for you it's a bit the same, because like for me, I would like to know from you how it is, through our own experiences, and how we had fear when it started. Everything, of course you have to kind of feel it in your own body so that you can help somebody else. Until you realize it, it's quite annoying, but then it makes totally sense. Now, of course, I need to know how I feel. My shoulder is always hurting. That's the first. And then you feel, oh, actually it doesn't hurt. There is something out of alignment. And this is very interesting for me. A lot of people have pain in their body where they think, well, it's the shoulder crackling and it hurts. And when you go deeper, you feel, oh no, it's just a misalignment. And then you go step by step, you go much more inwards until you realize, for me, the very end is, it's all not true. It's just me telling me that story all the time, because whatever reason, maybe that it was a trauma, and since then my shoulder is telling this story. But in the end, it's just you who has to let go of the story behind the story behind the story.
100%. Yeah, because it's still, a lot of the trauma, I do another type of trauma therapy when we're working with the limbic system, the vagus nerve and everything else, bilateral eye movements, and we're releasing the stranglehold that the brain has on the body. Because every time, like when we take on a trauma, for whatever reason, research has shown that the right side hemisphere of the brain becomes overstimulated, and so that memory should transition over to the corpus callosum and become like in a filing cabinet in the in the past, and it should be a past memory. But what happens is, imagine it gets caught in a pending tray and it doesn't actually transition. So what happens is what this event that happened however many years ago or even recently, every time something reminds us of that or something triggers it, we're back in the room, we're back in the we're back in the situation, we're feeling the same fear that we felt at that time. We might have only been 5 years old, we might have been 20 years old, but we're feeling it at that moment, caught in time, that's almost trapped in our body. And unless we can release that stranglehold that it has on the body and that trigger, we're always going to be triggered, and we're always going to feel it. So the body's going to go into contraction and we're in this holding state of fear.
Yeah, and I find it interesting that we're talking actually a lot about how this awakening experience is one in the body, because a lot of people, they're talking about what happened, you know, in their vision. But it's funny again that right now I'm in a process where I feel a lot that in order to really understand, I don't have to go out and try to, you know, open up to a
No, I go inwards.
inwards.
Yeah,
Breathe.
same as you. I go in.
Yeah, because in the end, the universe, we are the micro um, picture of the macro, how it works. So instead of going out, it's much too complicated. Just go in and understand. And what I feel is that a lot of stuff makes more sense to me and is not that emotionally attached anymore, when I just see it as neutrons, electrons, and stuff working like that in my body. And this is also how information is being transported in the universe. So I can link it together. I understand also, then I can let go of my own stories and trauma a little bit more. Then I can just say, well, in the end, it's just, you know, like information. What I also came to know, for me, is information actually is being stored in emotions. It's
Yeah,
stored through emotions, and that's why we have to go into the emotion in order to crack it up. That's why a trauma is being locked in an emotion away, and you don't know the story anymore. But as soon as you have the same emotion again, then it will open up the whole story that has happened
yeah,
away. So the way is to just understand that also a lot of emotions are maybe not even my own. It's like a universal puzzle, and the universe has a story, and this is just being, I'm like Catherine, who has distorted information of that whole story, and I'm just you know, playing it out here in my life. But
yeah. But you don't know who else's energy you've interacted with, and
yeah,
how many
it's
of
not
their stuff you've taken on. You know, I get that all the time. You know, and I think when I'm working on a client and I'm feeling all of a sudden like I'm feeling this deep emotion, and I'm like, is it mine? No, it's not mine, it's theirs, you know, and I'm feeling it, and you just gotta just go with it. And I, you know, when fear rises, either in myself or them, I just say it's just passing through. You know, it's not real, because it's something from the past. It's not now, it's not in the present. So, you know, and I just see these things for myself as a positive sign of healing. So I embrace them, because I'm like, I just want it out. Just get gone.
yeah. So
Move on.
tell me a little bit about it, how that was for you to be first very confused, and how did you learn to really work with it and let it flow? Because I love it when you tell how you wanted to maybe move the energy a certain way, but she was like, no, my hand wants to go this way now, and you just have to follow it. So I love,
Yes.
yeah.
So I've had a lot of I've had a lot of interesting people that have found me, and I haven't gone in search of them. And one really interesting thing that happened was I was meditating one day, and I think it might have been in lockdown, and I seen this guy with a flute with a bun on top. He's clearly Indian. And 2 days later, he friend requested me on Facebook. Oh, what? So immediately I was like, why have you been sent to me? Because I saw you 2 days ago in meditation. We got straight on video call, like straight away. And he had his flute, and he was like, just sit. I just want you to sit in a meditative state. I went, okay. I was at work, so I sat on one of the treatment couches. He said, just sit. I was like, okay. And he starts playing. He said, would you like me to play my flute? And I thought, no. And then but just out of politeness, I went, okay, then, yeah, that'd be lovely. And I thought he was going to play me a tune. And weirdly enough, I used to play the flute, you know, as a child and into my teens. So it was strange that this guy with a flute was like interacting with me. So I sat in this meditation state, and he starts playing these scales, and then my body starts pulling to the right. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. These high or these low notes, and then he goes to the high notes. My body starts pulling to the left. I'm like, I've got no control over it at this point. And then he does this sort of riff. I'm like, oh, my body's like, it's like he tuned my whole body with
Yeah.
that flute, you
Wow.
know. And because these are ancient scales from way back, you know, thousands of years old, that they've used in India, and you know, they're like, I don't know what they are, but anyway, it works. So the next time I got onto a call with him, he said, let's just do a meditation. I'm like, okay then. So we've just sat, we've connected, and he said, just to have, imagine that my hand's on top of yours like this, and then, you know, other hands like, okay then. So I stopped doing it, and then I just closed my eyes. But then during that was the first time that I had a lot of like really, you know, my hands started really moving, and I was having visions of lotuses and all sorts of stuff. And then when we finished, my hands were like the opposite way, but so were his. But I'd had my eyes closed the whole time, so he'd energetically really connected with me, and it was beautiful. And we developed this friendship, and he used to play flute to me all the time, and I'd be like, oh, you know, my body would be like, gonna be really orgasmic, and you know, lots and lots of stuff was moving. And I've had several different people like that come into my life,
Mm-hmm.
that at each stage, who like, you know, when something, you know, as it's sort of burning through each chakra, you know, as it's sort of being stuck there, you know, the next person has come in, and it's always been male energy that's connected with me,
So
and then
beautiful.
that sort of just
Wow.
opened up, and then being able to flow to the next point. And it's been incredible. It's been a beautiful, magical journey, but at the same time it's been a nightmare.
Yeah.
You know, because I remember Angelo saying to me in the beginning, who was the first guy that I connected with. He said to me, Suzanne, the minute you break your chains, all the chains that have been holding you, there's going to be a shitstorm. And he wasn't wrong. They really were. I left my husband, and then my mum got cancer, and and this big divorce battle's been going on, and it's just all these, and then lockdown, and oh God, all this stuff that's happened, and it's still happening. And I personally think that when we start to break away from these, like, I think they're karmic cycles, I
Mm.
think it causes a lot of disruption, and it's chaos for a while, you
Yeah.
know. But
Yeah.
in myself, so with when this all these hand movements started, I just totally relax. I go into meditation, and music has been a really big part of my healing journey. So different sounds, frequencies, um, really, really do help me release and move energy. So I often meditate with music, and my hands, over the years, have done all sorts of different things, but it will work on a certain area, and then it might take a while, then all of a sudden, then the shaking comes, the trauma release comes, and then this wave of sort of very orgasmic energy. So my body does a lot of shaking like this, and then it'll wave like this, and it feels like it's sort of all maybe coming up these, the Pingala and the Ada
Yeah.
nadis, perhaps, maybe I'm wrong. And then it feels like it comes up the central channel, and then my body just waves. Like one of my mentors, he said to me, Suzanne, when energy moves, it moves in a wave. So when energy moves, the body moves,
Yeah.
which makes total sense, doesn't it?
Absolutely. But yeah, for me, yeah, that's actually when we're talking about krios, right? For the people
Yeah,
who are
yeah,
listening. And I think a lot of people, they this is a part which people, they can kind of freak out, of course, when it's happening.
yeah.
Oh,
All
that,
sorts of things can happen. Like, I've
yeah,
had automatic yoga poses. My legs have got into weird pretzel movements. you
yeah,
know, and my hands do all sorts of weird and wonderful things, and they do mudras and all of that stuff, and I love it. I just get on with it. I think that energy movement's beautiful. I just see it as an expression of the movement of the energy,
yeah, exactly.
but for
I
someone else it might be a bit
think
scary.
that, yeah, and the problem, of course, is that there's another conditioning coming in, that I think we have to kind of break through and let the listeners know. I mean, when this stuff is happening, a lot of people, of course, they have this association, like The Exorcist, these movies,
It can look like that.
and it's just, um I think for me it's important to reassure the people that this is exactly the spiritual journey. You have to break through all these conditionings. And
Yes.
it is true, I can tell you, it's kind of a lonely journey for a while because you're scared
Yeah, it can be
yourself,
very lonely.
exactly because of that. But
And do you choose isolation? I've chosen isolation a lot.
oh, but I had to somehow.
Yeah, same.
It
Had
was
to.
it was like my yearning. It was not, but also I kind of felt very lonely for a long.
Same. I wanted it, but it felt very painful and very lonely.
Yes, it was just that I also, when I reached out to people, what I also experienced is that actually people, maybe at the beginning they were helping me, and this was
Mm,
also a very hard experience. Like they helped a lot at the beginning, and then when I started to say, hey, again, can you tell me, then they kind of drifted off. And but this is I know that this is like something I have to learn on my journey, to not
yeah.
depend on people first of all, but to also trust that you are really helped when that uh, that fear of not being helped is gone away. But the universe is not going to give me the help until I stepped over that fear, because it doesn't help me when it does it earlier.
Yeah, I
What
get
I
it.
mean, it's very funny, but it makes sense.
I think as well a lot. When we spoke earlier, but I feel a lot of my journey, probably maybe like yours, has been a lot about surrendering into our feminine energy and not having to be in our masculine. And it's ironic that a lot of the help I've had has all been from men, and I've had to totally surrender, and have that trust, and actually let a man help me,
Mhm.
which I've never been able to trust enough to let a man help me because of my upbringing, because of my past experiences, because that's all my brain has to go on is my past experiences, that I can't trust men.
Yeah.
So that's been a really huge part for me. And even more recently, one of the guys who came through the school, he's older than me, and I don't like normally letting guys do the body work on me. I feel like I'm under attack, which naturally I would because of my past. Um, but this particular one, I did let him do a session on me, and he listened to what I said, and I said, okay, I don't need deep touch. I need to be touched gently, but I need you to hold those positions for longer, because I knew that's what I needed to release. And I had huge releases, huge. And
Yeah.
then more recently, I went on to have a more in-depth bodywork session with him that included yoni massage, which is something that I really like. No way, no way am I doing that. Even though I'm trained to do all of that stuff, I was like, no, nobody's doing it on me. Get lost. But he did, and he worked incredibly intuitively on me. Everything was he actually didn't go inside. It was very gentle, and I released so much emotion, and it was stuff that I really needed to let go of. Really needed to let go of.
Yeah.
So and I've learned a lot about myself. That I know it's knowing what you need. And I'm starting to know what I need.
Uh-huh.
I need to be nurtured. So,
Yeah. So yeah, for me, it's just important to also let the listeners know what is the reason we suppose for these movements is. And in the end, it's let's say we have we humans, we come here on this planet, and it's a very dense planet, so we're like, we
yeah, yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
pushed into the material like this. And the spiritual journey is actually to go back, that way back, so we start to a bit open up and not be that dense anymore, which means that this can hurt, of course.
yeah,
You have to let go of the density, which is strange because actually you just have to let go, but you don't understand it's the other way around. It's like You don't have to push, you just have to stop pushing.
Surrender. You have to just totally relax, and that's the thing
Yeah,
when fear is rising, to then do the
because
opposite thing to what your body wants to naturally do, which is tense and contract, because that's a natural state of being for the human condition. Is
so
to
yeah,
do the opposite, is just to relax and
because
allow it.
see, the density is doing the pushing. You just
Yeah,
have to stop pushing back, and then it.
and relax. Just and that's a hot. That's like saying to somebody's gonna beat you with a stick, and you just got to be totally relaxed.
Yeah.
um,
And then what is happening is that the normal movement of energy, which is very healthy, is starting to go through you, but you are
yeah.
not you are not you are not experienced in that. So at the beginning it's like you push again against it. You
Yeah,
will
and it's a natural response. It's a natural response.
until
Something
you
is,
don't anymore, and then stuff like with Susan can start to happen, that actually your body is kind of starting to show you how the universe would now
yeah, you're
and
right.
move, you know. And I think this is the only thing that is important for me to let the people know. When you start to go into contraction and fear again, because you think, oh no, this is like exorcism or something like that, then you will enforce a fear, and which is really not necessary. It's actually to
Yeah,
to the energy which is in tune with the universe and not
I
against it.
100%. Yeah, I agree. Because if we contract, what do we do? We naturally contract our tummy, and if we do that, we stop the energy from moving. If we relax it, then the energy can calm and it can move. So people say to me, Suzanne, sometimes they say to me, "How do you do what you do?" And I go, I do it by doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. Is complete surrender, and that's a really difficult thing for someone to take on board who's feeling frightened, and also we have to remember that ego states come into play. So a
Absolutely.
lot of time when people show up, especially I see a lot of people going through Kundalini awakening who come to me for trauma release sessions, and they will always show up in the child ego state. They're frightened, because the fear is rising, and in some clients, you see things that I swear they look like an exorcism, and another, it's like an entity is talking through them, and I've had people say, "Fuck you! I'm going to smash your light. I'm going to take you down. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to rip your soul out." I've had all of that, and you just have to, I don't know, is it an entity? Who knows? Is it an ego state? Is it something that's there trying to protect this scared little child that's inside? This moment caught in time from childhood, the brain has, manifested all these different ego states to divert from the elephant in the room, which is the scared child, and when you're in fear, you're in the child ego state.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's recognizing when you're in adult and when you're in child, and actually being able to say, okay, I recognize that I'm in child. I need my adult to step forward and nurture that child and tell that child that everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And that's a really important part again of, when I'm working with clients, is to help them recognize those ego states.
Mm-hmm.
And I think knowledge is power. So, and even for myself, I can go, okay, I know I'm in the child ego state now. I'm feeling really vulnerable and scared and tearful. I want to be nurtured. I want comfort, because I'm in the child ego state, and and I want some comfort.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So for me, it's actually the same. It's that the energy is telling me a lot what I have to work on if I want
Yes,
or not, and then you obviously you land with certain known stuff out of every in psychology, and the inner child is a very important thing.
massive.
I didn't realize it for a long time. And actually, it's just since recently that I understand my big mother wound that I have. I didn't know. I didn't,
Yeah,
because for me, it's also interesting because I always looked the wrong way. So it's like everybody tells you everybody has a blind spot, and this is the the gift you have, the blind spot when you see it. And I was like, I don't have a blind spot because I'm
We
very
all do.
I tell you, the problem is I'm very good in shadow work. Oh, I love to go in the dark and blah blah blah. But until I realized, oh the fuck, my blind spot is life can also be absolutely wonderful, full of love and people who help you, and this scares the shit out of me.
And you have to be open to receiving.
You know, but it comes out of my childhood. It
Yeah,
comes my mother wound because she was
yeah,
nourishing, and
yeah. Give yourself permission to receive. That's a huge thing.
that's a huge one. Oh my god,
Massive.
no, massive.
Yeah,
It's scary.
it
It's
is scary.
scary.
Yeah.
When the love comes, oh my god, it's really scary.
Scary. But I tell you something that's really changed is when I left my marriage, I was dead from the neck down because I lived in my head. My body was numb. And then obviously this all of this awakening and body, awakening, and then me starting to feel into my body, feel into the discomfort, the pain, the emotions, and everything else. It's and that in itself is a huge process. I ask people just to allow themselves to start to feel into their body, stop living in the head, start to get back into the body, because we just conditioned, and I was conditioned to be a martyr, you know. And when I left my husband, my mum said to me, because my daughter didn't come with me initially, only for a few months, but she chose to stay because it was close to her new college she was starting. And my mum said to me, Suzanne, your child is suffering. You need to go home and sort your marriage out for the sake of your daughter. And I said, what about your daughter? What about the sake of your daughter? Your
Yeah.
daughter's suffering.
Wow.
What about I was experiencing what felt like soul death.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just soul death. I was getting really sick, really in and out of hospital, really sick. At one stage I was told I was going to end up on dialysis, and that was terrible. And I came off of, I'd gone on to antidepressants, and I was on blood pressure tablets and statins for cholesterol, because again I was in such a heightened fear state. My cholesterol was going through the roof because of all the cortisol and everything. And I came off of everything and got into a naturopathic program and started taking like a herbal infusions, and got my kidneys back into the normal range. And my doctor, he shook my hand. He said, Suzanne, how have you done that? I've never known anyone to do that. And I just told him. And he was like, he just shook my hand,
Yeah.
because he said, I've never known anybody reverse that. And it wasn't an illness as such. It was the fact that it was my environment that I was in
And the body
causing that.
the body
Yeah.
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 So actually, in order to wrap it up, I would be very interested in your, like, the collective view of all of that. So what do you think, what is happening? Because I have the feeling, but maybe you feel it the same. It's funny that the longer I am in the process, the more I realize, oh my god, this is another story I'm telling, and the collective is
There's
telling.
so much there's so much to tell. It's like
Yeah, but
I could talk to you like for 10 hours.
yeah, right. We can do another one. And I was thinking about maybe doing some sessions where people come together. We can do one
Yeah.
with Mickey together once, or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, just let me know what you think. Where is it going?
I
If you
think
have an idea.
I do have an idea. There's a mass awakening going on. When I started this journey, I felt so alone, and I was just so glad that I'd connected with one person that was like me. Now, all of my friends, virtually all of them, are going through Kundalini awakening.
Right?
Even my mum has had trauma release experiences just from being around me, and I think that we are here. I think we all have something unique to give and unique to offer and offer each other. And I think that I think those of us that are further down the line are here to help those that are in the beginning of the process. And I think some of us have been gifted different things to help different people. And I think that the polarity on earth has been, so put in, like the men have been feminized, the women have been masculinized, even the poles are screwed up. The polar ice caps are melting, the whole poles on earth are screwed up. And I think that this is a reset, and the polarity needs to be brought back. And my whole body's tingling now, and I know this is right. My whole body is being brought, the whole earth, not my body, but the whole earth is being brought back to some balance, because I think that there's been so much darkness and wrongdoing going on. The bigger picture has been a lot of wrongdoing going on, with the intention of keeping people in a fear state, to keep their energy low, because fear is one of the biggest things that holds people back from ascending, from awakening, and everything else. So these low vibrational energies, they feed on fear. They're in the lower chakras, and they feed on fear, and they stop this energy coming up. So, and I think that's been a really big part of what's been going on collectively over probably quite a long time. And I think the balance now is like, okay, there's a tipping point now, and I've never known so many people to be waking up.
Yeah.
And if they're not, they're drawn to you, and then they start to go into an awakening. And just by being around you, having, like, for me, client sessions, I have a lot of people going to Kundalini awakening, a lot. But I don't believe it's me. I think that they were on the precipice, and that was just the final push they needed.
Oh, absolutely. And just to close it, what I also feel is what I started before. It's that the longer you are in this process, the more you understand. It's in the end, it's just a story that is being told. Its age is old, and it's been told all the time.
Oh, yeah.
People always had the feeling of the apocalypse is coming and the end of days, always throughout time. So people were always awakening, and then the world was awakening with them. So it's very strange how you at a certain point you understand, maybe it's just always for every person it's the same. They start to awaken, and the world around them starts to awaken. So
Yeah, I think we send a ripple out to the universe. When we awaken, I think we just send out this ripple, and we become these conduits to channel this energy. And the more people that are awakening, the higher the vibration on earth is going to get. And then it's going to be like, I mean, I even said to Michaela, who you interviewed previously, it's spreading like a virus. And she said, well, it's funny you should say that, it is a
yeah, of
virus.
course. Yeah. Oh, I love it. Yeah, no, it's so beautiful, and I really love how also all these people come together who are very dear,
We'll find each other, and
find
that's the
each other,
beautiful
and
thing.
it's so nice. And yeah, let's continue with these talks, because I really feel it helps people a lot, and I invite the people who are listening to that, whenever you please write in the comments when you have like epiphany moments, or when you say, wow, this was the same for me, or whatever your truth is, just let it out. And we help each other, really, because it's like, in the end, when we are talking about awakenings, who knows exactly what it is? But I think everyone who experienced that is going to look for answers. And then you see these concepts of, there's only one consciousness, and we are just fractal looking, but we all are that consciousness. So what is happening when we talk to each other, or when you listen to other one's stories, you talk to yourself, telling your story from another perspective. And then, it's
Mirrors come into my life all the time. I have clients that mirror. I'm like, oh my god, here's another mirror, here's something else, here's another wound I need to work on.
So let's just talk to each other, to ourselves.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. It's a beautiful thing, and I think that we should connect. We should, share this knowledge, and just reassure people who are going through the process they're not going mad. It's a weird process, and that there's no department in the hospital for it. There's no department in a psychiatric unit for it, or at the doctor's surgery. No one's going to understand it. They're going to give you anti spasmodics, they're going to give you probably oromorph, they're going to give you antidepressants. And you know what? Sometimes people, for a short time, and I do believe modern medicine does have its place.
Oh,
And there are
absolutely.
times I see people in psychosis, and you know, to so that they can actually sleep at night, because like I've got a dear friend of mine who she wasn't sleeping, she just wasn't getting any sleep, and then because of that she couldn't eat, and and it was affecting her health really badly. And actually for her, a short spell of antidepressants has actually helped her.
It's
um
beautiful that you say that, Susan, because this is also an important message for from me, that um that there are, don't just say everybody who has a schizophrenic attack is just going through an awakening. It's not true. Sometimes your mind is so afraid of that awakening that it can really split, and you need help
yeah,
every moment. So yeah, let's be just modest with it. And we are not doctor, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to
no.
talk about topics
But
I,
I think, yeah, I think modern medicine does have its place 100%.
yeah.
And also I've actually just finished a course in recognizing signs of autism, and because I've had also a big chunk of clients who are on the spectrum, or diagnosed autistic, and these people are so sensitive and they feel things so deeply, and a lot of them go into kundalini awakening. So
Yeah.
that's another topic for another time.
Oh, yes, Susan, yes, let's do that soon again. It was so nice, and oh, I love your energy. It's, yeah, I feel like you are somebody who went through so much, but you take it as lightly as any.
And that's how I've always been, even as a child. Everything I'm like,
I love.
I would always have this ability to bounce back very, very
Yeah.
quickly. But it doesn't mean I wasn't taking things on internally, and which is obviously why I've now gone into this, full blown process. But I think your character is your character no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wonderful. So, yeah, let's stop here, and then you promise me we talk soon again.
Yes, we'll definitely talk soon again.
Me
I've
too.
got so much to say.
Wonderful. Yeah.
I've also
Really
got
looking forward.
a free Facebook group as well, I talk a lot about Kundalini and Tantra and
You
self-care, self-love. So I'm really happy to share that.
send me all these links,
I'll
and I
send you
will
the
put
links.
it
Yeah.
down in the video. So
Okay.
thank you very
Amazing.
much.
You're welcome. Lovely to meet you.
Bye.